Hello, this is Sarah Sabin, executive and team coach here in the Leading in the Modern Way video interview series. And I am really excited to have with me here today Andrew Montlake, who is the managing director of Coreco. Andrew, hello, welcome to the
Hello.
show. And could you briefly introduce yourself to my listeners?
Yes, my name's Andrew Montlake. I am, the managing director of Coreco. We're a mortgage brokerage that started in 2009, and I've been in the mortgage and finance industry since 1994. So yes, very old. Um, and yeah, so I do that, and I've been a mortgage broker for ages. Sort of worked my way up from the bottom. And I'm also the chairman of the Association of Mortgage Intermediaries as well, which is the trade body of mortgage brokers. And I'm a failed rock star. There
Ooh.
you go.
Well, I'm going to come back to the interesting point that you started your business because it seems like an interesting time to have done it. But before we go into that, what's what happened with the rock star career?
Well, it's only in my head I was ever going to be a rock star. No, music is my passion, and I've been in loads of bands, and yeah, quite a good band when I was younger. But no, we never got anywhere. So now I tread the boards in a dad rock band. I think that's what they call it these days. Clinging tenuously to the dream of being discovered, but it's not going to happen. I'm too old, too ugly, and my voice isn't as great as it as it could be.
Well, I mean, it's never too late, but I suppose the last part might be the sticking point.
Yeah, the lack of talent. Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to Coreco, you started in 2009, which
Mm,
was just around the time of the credit crunch.
correct. Yeah.
Now, it would be interesting to understand more about what made you want to start up a business in that particular area at that particular time, because I imagine it might have brought with it quite a few challenges.
Yeah, it was a challenging time.
Yeah.
Those of us who started Coreco, we were the management team, if you like, at a previous business, and that business went down. So that business went down in the credit crunch, and we all got made redundant. So yeah, 2009 wasn't the greatest of years, and there were three of us who thought, actually, I know a bit about PR and marketing as well as mortgages, and uh, one of the other guys had an MBA and he knew about finance. The other guys knew about tech, and we thought, well, let's just do something together and maybe just do some consultancy work. And then someone said, well, why don't we just start our own mortgage company? And we were stupid enough to think that was a good idea. So yeah, we did. So there were 10 of us from the old company who we all got together and started it, and that was really the start. That first year was really tough.
Mm.
But it's something we just believed that there was a better way to do mortgage broking. There was a better way to educate people around finances, not hide behind suits and ties, and not use jargon and make things overly complicated. We wanted a real fresh, different approach.
Mm. I love so much about what you said. So the kind of image that came to mind is a phoenix rising out of the ashes. Um, and from a practical perspective, it's when you're made redundant, it's obviously a shock, but anything that we encounter, any challenge, we can always look for the opportunity there, which is what
Mm.
you and some of your colleagues decided to do. And the other thing that I want to say is that, you know, going against the tide. So it might have seemed illogical to a lot of people to set up that in that particular industry at that particular point. But in any recessionary period, there is always opportunity to do things better or to do things differently, even if it's kind of hard at the time. I mean, it's usually hard in the beginning anyway. But I just want to commend you for going against the grain there and
Yeah, I mean,
taking that chance.
I was interested. I mean, look, it was what we knew, it's what we understood. Just before the company was actually was talking about merging with another company, and the CEO of that other company kept in touch with us, and we told him what we were doing. He said, "Do you know what? I like you guys. I'll back you." So we had that. We were lucky to have that person who believed in us as individuals. And so yeah, we had a tiny bit of seed capital from him, and yeah, that's how we started. We knew if we could go back. So what we did is we went back and we negotiated with the people who'd taken it over to buy the client bank back. So we actually managed to buy the client bank of that company for very, very little. And that set us in good stead.
So you had that backing, which is of course very helpful. And I also want to kind of express the point you raised about people backing a team, because that is quite often how companies get funding. You're funding the team because towards the beginning few years, who knows if the company's going to be successful. It's essentially about the success of the team. So fast forward to today, what's the most pressing thing on your mind at the moment? So if you could take some magical fairy dust and sprinkle it on something, what would that be?
That's easy. Cash flow. Cash flow. Running a business that's the thing that keeps you up at night. Always, especially in so mortgage broking is really interesting. It's quite a low profit margin business, or it can be, especially if you're based in London. There's higher wages, costs of buildings, etc. And it's the front line of the economy. So as soon as something goes wrong, you feel it. You feel it almost immediately. And from the moment Kwasi Kwarteng sat down about a year and a half ago and delivering that ridiculous mini budget, that destroyed our industry for a good 12, 18 months, and we're only just recovering now. So it's yeah, especially when you're at a mid-range size. So we're 50 people. We were about 63 18 months ago, but now we're 50 people. And yeah, so it's that you're sort of at that mid-range company where you're just a bit too big to be really you can really pivot quickly, but you're not big enough that you could just cut loads of costs really quickly. So it's maintaining that and maintaining everything has been a tricky 12 to 18 months. But then it's always tricky running a business. That's always the thing you keep your eye on most of the time is how's cash flow.
Well, it's interesting. So quite often with SMEs, what I find is that they don't necessarily have as much of an eye on the financial aspect as they should have. And that combined with some kind of difficult period can be quite disastrous. So the fact that it seems to be in your consciousness is a good thing. And the other point here is just business resilience, because there will always be cycles. And, that's why it's so important to manage cash flow, to, capitalize when things are going well, to try and predict in advance where things are likely to happen.
Yeah.
So to have that kind of forward-looking view
Yeah,
as well.
it's really difficult because you don't want to be that negative that you're just worried about. You have to have that balance between the 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 vision of where I want to get to and the excitement and all of that, but you do have to have that smattering of realism. The issue that we've had in our industry indeed in the economy generally is you sort of had in the past 4 or 5 years you've had almost a black swan event every year,
Mhm.
and that is almost unprecedented. So it's extraordinary. Last year, I said that last year was the hardest time that I've experienced since 2009, since that credit crunch,
Y- y-
as in our industry, and the effect that everything that's happened has had on it. Now, touch wood, the the market seems a lot better again. People seem a lot more buoyant, a lot more positive, and January started really well. So it's it's about riding out those the roller coaster of emotions
mm,
and things that happen when you're running a business.
yeah. And it's not the first time that this has come up, that 2023 in particular was a very challenging year. For example, one of my clients who runs a VC fund said that VCs were basically not lending last year, and it had been the
Yeah.
worst year since 2009, interestingly.
Mm.
So, again, everything this year looks much more positive. But I think it's important to note that, looking at what's coming ahead does not mean necessarily you're being negative. It's seeing potential challenges and approaching them from that sort of calm and grounded place, so that you're not looking at numbers and panicking, for
Yeah.
example, because
Yeah.
it's not the numbers that create the emotion, it's our emotional response to
Yeah,
said
that's right. Yeah,
to said
absolutely.
numbers.
Yeah.
And if you can get that right and balance it with that really strong vision and still setting big goals, then that really is a winning formula for success.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's yeah, running a business is interesting. It's especially when it's it really does feel like our baby. It's my baby. Now there's only two of us. We started with about six of us who started the company. Now there's only two of us who run the business day to day, and it's yeah, it's our baby. It's You're emotionally invested. You've worked, some of the people who work for us, I've worked with them for over 20 years now,
Mm,
and yeah, that emotion is it's what keeps you going, really.
mm, yes, and learning how to manage roller coaster emotions as you
Yeah.
go. So in terms of leadership, how do you personally define strong leadership, and how would you say it impacts the growth of your company?
um I'm very much a heart on sleeve person. I'm very much a uh uh not do as I say, but it's a do what I do. Basically, it's very much. I'm lucky in that there's no real facet of the business that I haven't done in my career, so I can empathise with whether they're just starting in customer services or administration or sales or a sales manager, etc. I've done all those jobs, so I can empathise with that, and I'm a big believer that you got two ears and one mouth for a reason, and they should be used in that proportion.
Mm,
So listening to people is really really important, and it's about not leadership isn't just about shouting the loudest. It's about inspiring people and about helping them to understand your vision and making your vision their vision.
mm,
And that's what's really important. So if you can bring people on the journey with you, um, help them make their own decision to do that, rather than dragging them kicking and screaming, then I think you have a much better environment. So we're very big on listening. We're very big on mental health. We're very big on flexibility. We're very big on, maybe I'm a little bit of a too honest, or a bit of an oversharer sometimes, but I don't know any other way, and I've accepted that's me, and that's my style, and it's served me well in this industry. Going forward, I don't like I don't like leadership styles that are very aggressive.
Mm.
That doesn't work for me. It's never worked for me personally. I'm not a very good I'm not a very good person to manage, unless it's by someone who has that approach. So
Mm.
it's always really important. I don't believe in it's all about me, because nothing's about me. I'm nothing. I'm probably the least important cog in the whole machine. It's about everyone else, and if you're supporting and bigging everyone up around you, then as the leader, you're naturally rising. It's not about belittling people, or shouting at them, or telling them what to do all the time.
Mm. So there's so much in there that I want to dig down into, but first of all, aggressive leadership, people might think that it worked, but actually it doesn't work as well as
No.
people might think. What you're talking about, and there are a few things. So I'm hearing humility, I'm hearing vulnerability where you share openly creates trust. Trust is a glue that needs to exist within a company
Mm.
to have a psychologically safe environment, which is one of the core dynamics of high performing teams. So a lot of what you said is what I would call the leader as a coach, which is helping people to come to their own conclusions on things, helping people
Yeah.
to see whether they buy into the vision, helping people to see where they fit in without telling people what to do. Because essentially, we might think we like being told what to do. In reality, hardly
Mm.
anyone responds well to that. So you can rule by fear or you can rule by love.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that. I've had, yeah, there've been too many leaders in the past have had, they just have a blame culture. Nothing's ever their fault. It's always someone else's fault. Um, and that's not how it is, and it's not a. It's really important that you give people the tools to grow and make their own decisions. Um, and I think I've got a great uh, leadership team. They're all female leadership team. They all started as uh, as young girls, and they're all maturing brilliantly into these wonderful individuals. But they know how to deal with me now, so they know actually if they're phoning me up with a problem, they've already thought of possibly the solution or a
Mm.
couple of ideas, and 99 times out of 100 they're on the right lines. They know it. They know what they're going to do. They just need that confidence. And it's about helping people growing, helping to give them the confidence to make the right decisions. And sometimes you will, it's not like being ruling by love, as you say, is not about being weak, or it's not about being um
Overly nice.
overly nice. No, not at all. I'm a Scorpio, so I've got a sting if I need it. So but yeah, it's about, I love seeing people grow and making their decisions. And sometimes I do have to change things, because you do want it to move in a certain direction. But 9 times out of 10, if you trust the people around you, they do make good decisions.
Yeah. I love everything you just said, Andrew. So in terms of yourself as a leader, how have you invested in yourself and what steps do you take to continue to grow and evolve?
That's a really good question. I've learned a lot over the past 5 years. So, although I was a founder of the company when there were five of us who founded the company, um, and we all had our assigned roles, and I was sort of marketing, PR, and brand, and coming up with a name and all of that stuff, as well as mortgage broker. And we appointed a managing director, although we all ran it together really. But since he left 5 years ago, and I've assumed that role, it has really been it's been an interesting journey. And sometimes, although it's me and my business partner, we get on really well. And I started in the industry as his assistant almost 30 years ago, which is quite bizarre. Um, it's, yeah, it can be quite lonely running a business. And because, yeah, although I'm honest and open, I can't always be 100% open with everything, because that's the nature of running a business. So I've been really lucky in this industry that I've got some really, really good people. This industry is phenomenal for people. It's why I love this industry. No one wants to go into mortgages when they start school. No one thinks, oh, I'm going to be a mortgage broker or etc. But as soon as you get in the industry, it's really hard to leave because the people are brilliant. They're lovely, because I'm in a position now where I've known some people since they were low down, like
Yeah.
I was, at mortgage lenders, and now they're running mortgage lenders. So I'm lucky. I've got a lot of people that I can talk to, a lot of other business leaders in the industry that I can talk to, and I read a lot of books. My favorite one is Traction.
Mhm.
The that's brilliant. That's really helped me over the last few years in terms of the system that
Systems and
um
processes,
yeah,
right? Mm.
that's really helped. um yeah, I probably don't invest enough in myself. That's a real long-winded way of saying I probably don't. I'm very time poor.
Mm.
um I'm a bit of a control freak, so I like to be involved in everything. And actually my journey this year is to really start stepping away from the day to day, and I need to work more on the business rather than in the business,
Mm.
and really drive the vision. So
Mm.
that's what I need to do this year, and invest in myself that little bit more.
Mm. So there's a few things that I want to pick up on. So number one, that sense of community, because being at the top is lonely. I don't say that just for the hell of it. And so it's important to be amongst peers, to be amongst people in the industry, to be amongst people that understand where you're coming from, because it makes the journey less lonely. And it also shows you that actually this thing that you're encountering is completely normal and you are
Yeah,
not a freak of nature
yeah.
by any means. Reading, again, really important to continuously do that. In terms of, the transition point you're at, really interesting point that, as you can imagine, is pretty common.
Mm.
And, it can sometimes lead to that conflict where you're like, I know I need to do this, but also I'm so used to
Yeah, absolutely.
being
Yeah,
like this. It's
yeah.
kind of an identity change. So it's like a whole process in itself,
Mm.
but it's very exciting at the same time. So
Mm.
I'm excited for you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Um, Final question.
Mm.
If you could give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
I thought something very flippant there, but I won't say that. To my 20-year-old self is just, I would say, don't be so bloody paranoid.
That's interesting.
I spent my whole I spent a long time in this industry, especially people I work with, just being paranoid and not believing in myself enough. And it goes back to some people's styles of putting people down in order to elevate themselves, and sometimes you believe what they say.
Mm,
Um, so I would just say, just believe in yourself, trust your gut, and yeah, that's what I'd say. I always say this to everyone who I speak to, if they want some help or assistance, is always be authentic,
mm,
always be you. Forget trying to be someone you're not.
mm,
And that's a really, really important bit of advice. And sometimes you have these stages in your life, your career, where you're trying so hard to be something that you think other people want to see.
mm,
You're wasting your own talents.
mm,
So being authentic and trusting yourself
mm.
is what I'd say.
Yeah, and that is so important because at the end of the day, if people are putting you down, it's actually more to do with them and their own insecurities than it
Mm,
is to do with you. So it makes no sense to live your life trying to, get everyone's approval.
yeah.
Mm. Andrew, I really enjoyed this conversation today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Good. And to my listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as well. If you would like to take part in the series, please do reach out to me. Bye for now.